Our next topic for this session is viewability. I'm not going to read the definition of viewability here because I would like to have your own input on this one. And I'm going to go forward a bit to speak about the people behind the measurement. Those guys who Nadeem likes a lot. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about a bit on the people who were behind sitting together and deciding, well, listen guys, we need to come up with a measurement, a metrics, so that we can make sure that what we're doing on mobile makes sense. So we have the Media Rating Council, the MRC, and we also have the 4Ms or 3Ms. This is debatable, but making mobile measurement makes sense, or making measurement makes sense. So this is basically an association that is a couple of people came together to do this one. There's the IAB, the American Association Advertising Agency, and that's the Association National Advertisers. So they came together, they created this one, and they're trying to create measurement for what we have on mobile and metrics. Today, if you go back in timeline, in 1995, we have the online impression metric adopted. So they started talking about the online impression. In 2004, it took them a lot of years to find out that the industry concerns around viewability and ad fraud, it started gathering pace. So people start talking about this. People start talking more about the fact that we need to know more about what people are seeing. We need to talk about more about ad fraud, what is happening on the internet. So they came along, the 3Ms or the 4Ms and MRC in 2011, and they started an initiative to fix the digital measurement. So they were like, let's sit down, let's start putting metrics and let's circulate it on everybody who is concerned around this. In 2012, the MRC came and issued an advisory to refrain from transacting on anything but viewable impressions. Right? So this was 2012. In 2015, the MRC said, you know what? Viewability is the new currency for measurement. But is this being really the practice nowadays? Are we actually doing this? So, and this is what we need to also discuss today. They came up with metrics, they came up with tools, but okay, and then what's happening? Are we actually doing this? Are we using them? Are we applying them? Today, big debate on what a viewable impression is, or what is viewability. Today on display, 1 second is a viewable impression. So if you blink, you actually saw the ad. Blink once, you're done. On video, it's 2 seconds. Is this right? I mean, it's considered viewable if it is seen for 2 seconds. Now, this is what we need to also debate in the session. So today, whoever is coming up with those definitions, with those terms, with those metrics, is it right? Is this enough? Is 1 second on display enough? Is 2 seconds on video enough? 50% of ads, as we know, are not viewable. So today we've had research that says that 50% of the ads that we see on the internet are not viewable. And today this is the average actually. And then you have 68% of ads above the fold are only viewable, and 40% of below the fold are viewable. So today, if you look at all this, that is something we really need to look at and really need to discuss to see how can we use viewability and how does it reflect on us. This is global. This is what we got from many sources like Google and others. So today, to look at this, there's a lot of things affecting the non-viewable ads. Some of those are basically ads placed in wrong places on websites or videos or games and so on and so forth. So placement is something which is extremely important to look at when we're placing ads that affects directly viewability. Ad fraud is something else that we need to look at. Are those real ads that are showing? Is the ad actually running? Is it viewed by people? Another thing we're looking at are ad blockers. It affects viewability to a very big extent. Fake site domains, fake traffic bots, crawlers that serve the internet, which are not actually human. Ads in mobile apps are designed to fit and be seen. So today, are we talking about getting into 100% viewability for ads running on mobile? And what is affecting that? And a large number of sites are not mobile optimized. This is a very major problem of having all ads on mobile seen. Because if the ad is too small, there's no way you can actually view it to start with. Different phone sizes can be a problem. If we can't really optimize for this as well, that's another issue that we're going to face. Connection speed. Is the ad loading or not? Fast scrolling or swiping. So if you scroll down you're quickly scrolling down, you might actually skip an ad which is there on the fold or maybe just below the fold. And flash, which is a major concern moving forward. They're banning it. Everybody's banning it. They have a problem with flash. Have publishers made any efforts or plans to improve their site's viewability? So is it a problem coming from the publisher's side? Do you work with any accredited vendor? Is there any vendor that actually everybody approves that, well, yes, let's use this company or this accreditation to audit the fact that our impressions are 80% viewable or 90% viewable and so on and so forth? Do you have fraud detection technology? Are we capable to actually detect whether this is real or is it fraud? What measures are being taken to ensure brand safety? Brand safety is something which is extremely important for us to see based on using measurement. So today, before the thank you, the next session and what we will be discussing now are mainly the fact of the following. The definition of viewability. We need to really decide on what is viewability. Is it only viewing the ad? Does it work this way? How important is viewability? Should it be a metrics that we need to consider in every single thing that we do? Do we really need to ask, you know what, all I need is 100% viewability? Because a lot of clients are moving in that direction. Yet, on TV, do you do the same exact thing on TV? Do you do the same exact thing in other mediums like magazines, like newspapers, like outdoor, and so on and so forth? Are we asking for 100% viewability there? Isn't it related? And to talk more about the core of the problem when it comes to viewability. So what I'm going to do is we're going to redo the brainstorming session again. I'm going to have each of the tables again discuss those particular things in particular. The facilitators will help you stay on topic this time and make sure to get the maximum out of you guys. This is I think this is a juicy topic that will I think it's going to be more concentrated than the first one that we took, which was more broad. So I'll leave the floor for you guys now, each to discuss and brainstorm about this for about 20 minutes. It's 30, but if I tell you 30, you're going to go 45. So around 20 minutes, and then we'll have a couple of minutes where you guys are going to choose someone who's going to take the feedback from all of you guys and give us this for us to debate. So the floor is yours. Great. Let's start with table number 1. Who's going to be representing?
Right, so apparently we were waiting for the agencies. What's new, right? Sorry, I had to get back. Okay, so look, our issue was we talked about, what really is the issue on the table when we talk about viewability in mobile or in desktop. So we said there are 3 essential things. One is, do we have a consensus on what is a view? How do we define a view? Or within the industry, do we need to push for that? The second is, can we verify that? Whatever data comes back from publishers, can we actually put some sense of verification into that view? And the third was, who saw it? Was it bots? Was it human beings? Was it below the fold? Was it in the background tab, etc., etc.? So looking at all of this, we had different point of view on the table, and obviously not everybody agrees that MRC's definition or the IAB's definition is where it should be, and we're all on a journey. But we have some benchmarks from the MENA industry we talked about, we have some benchmarks from the global industry we talked about, but we all agree that this is an area where we need greater transparency in, and we have to work very hard with our agencies and with publishers to really push the boundaries on how we're paying for impressions and views in the industry. So if you look at how views are defined, for instance, Facebook, 3 seconds, Snapchat, 1 second, YouTube, 30 seconds, whatever, however they may want to define. My problem is, when a consumer looks at a video on YouTube and sees 20 million views, he has a certain impression of the quality of the content. When the consumer looks at the same video on Facebook and sees 20 million views, again, he has or she has the same impression. Are we justified in actually giving that impression on both platforms in different definitions? That's the first thing. Can we get the platforms to agree on the definition of the view? Or can I stop paying for views that I don't think, as per my definition, work? And the issue is greater for awareness advertisers like FMCGs and far less for performance advertisers like Lenovo or Etisalat, where they don't have to really care whether viewability is an issue for them, because they can pay for cost per acquisition. And they have that model built in with their agencies. And how agencies deal with, on performance, how agencies deal with publishers, I wish we could deal in the similar fashion working with our agencies on awareness as well. So we agree on a definition of a video view, not individually as a client or an agency. I wouldn't want to go to, for instance, TMS and say, if you don't give me this definition of a view, I will stop buying from you. We don't want to go to that level, because obviously it's an industry where we have to work together. But there has to be a point where you say, look, cutoff is a cutoff. I'm not going to pay for an impression that's not viewable. I might not even want to pay for an impression. I might want to pay for a view, or I might want to pay for an effective impression. And B, if you're not letting me verify it, and some of the best platforms don't let you verify it, right? If you're not letting me verify it, how long can I actually continue to believe in the data you're providing? So imagine, would you believe today, if you're an advertiser on TV, would you actually just believe in the fact that Rotana comes and tells you that they put your ad on TV and that's it? No, right? It sounds pretty primitive. Why should you believe in Facebook and Google and rest of the other advertisers, publishers? Why should you not be able to verify it? And I think these are really core issues on the table. And it, majority of the impact, unfortunately, is towards the trading side. And that's where I think the agency's involvement and partnership is very, very, very crucial. So that was the discussion.
The good news, as we're speaking about the mobile video and mobile advertising viewability, I think the stats that's coming from IAB, it says 81% from the ads that's been served on mobile devices is viewable ads. That's us without doing anything, compared to 49% desktop advertising that's only viewable. So the mobile itself, it's really amazing, and the percentage of viewable ads, it's almost the double. Okay, this is us without doing anything in the viewable technology and the viewable side of the business to edit that and to do all of these things. And why is that? This is very simple reason, because the mobile screen itself cannot take more than one ad at the same time, right? If that's done properly. So the screen itself, it's allowing you just to put like one ad perhaps, and this is the reason initially behind having this a huge percentage. The other interesting thing, also from what we have found in the table here, the viewability as a term, we need to differentiate between two things. And I think what the gentleman is referring from Unilever, we have to differentiate between a viewable impression and a measured impression. So a measured impression, you can do this today, and I think the agencies are really doing a fantastic job on that. So they use a lot of third-party measurement and tracking tools to measure the impressions and to measure the clicks, right? But that's not the delivered, that's not the viewable impression. So this is only a delivered impression. So there is a difference between a viewable impression and a delivered impression. The other thing also from what we have come up with on the table, the guidelines for a viewable impression on the mobile devices, it's still not yet there. There are like, a first draft and a second draft, of that. We anticipate that the Media Rating Council and IB and the rest of the guys to come up with guidelines for this, hopefully October this year, probably in a month time from now, a few weeks time from now. And there is perhaps another version that's going to come either end of this year or beginning of next year. So the standards of advertising viewability, again, on mobile devices, and I speak about mobile because I have nothing to do with desktop, we just only do mobile advertising. It's still in the stages of being developed and finalized, and nothing is concrete there. But before we try to give you as much as we can, insights, about this, and I think everyone is on the table, as mobile advertising vendors, be it network or exchanges or marketplaces, etc., more or less fall into the same, percentage, and has done a tremendous amount of efforts to make sure that the ads is viewable and there is no frauds, and every one of us, and I think, if you speak to us, individually, we'll be able to address a lot of issues, how we do fraud detection. The way Falcon is doing it is different from Addictive Mobility, is different from Anghami, Shwayri, DMS is different from InMobi, of course, InMobi. So every one of us is doing it in a different way. And the most important thing for you as an advertiser is to make sure that the return of investment is there. And the return of investment, is measured at the end of the day. The coming hopefully guidelines will be able to help us to regulate the industry together, and you as an advertiser, you need to be educated and aware, of course, about how to use these guidelines and how to measure your viewable impression, of course, in the support of the media agencies, and at the end of the day, I think one important thing for us is to make sure, before we talk about viewability and we talk about these deep sort of technical stuff and technical issues, we need to make sure that we are growing up the pie of the digital advertising as a whole, and then look at growing up the mobile advertising as a medium as well. And I think us as a technology suppliers and as a mobile media monetization enabler at the end of the day, it's going to be very hard for us to keep investing in technology and doing viewability and looking at different technical aspects of that, while the mobile advertising is still like it's a very tiny share compared from the whole entire digital spend. So I think we have to be worried about how we can increase that pie moving forward, okay, and then definitely come in the same time perhaps working together on making sure that we deliver a charming experience to our audience. And again, the return of investment on that, this is the most measurable, I believe, item when it comes to digital advertising.
Thanks a lot.
Sometimes we have skyscraper, for example, right? And you can see the first part. But at the end, you need to know that your ad is competing with the content on the web.
Yes.
If it's not attractive, it's a lost opportunity for you, right? So also we need to proactively, as a creative agency's clients, work on those limitations which we have, and they're gonna exist, right? Also we discussed if, for example, I'm running performance campaign, does viewability matter for me? And we believe it does. Why? Because, okay, if we are thinking about digital only in silos and our only objective is to drive e-commerce sales, then it's fine. But we believe that the more important is to look on the 360 campaign approach and to track all the elements and contacts with the brand. Because even if you are paying for the click, but you're losing on awareness because the ad wasn't viewable, it's your also lost opportunity. That's why we need to push and discuss viewability more and more, even if you are selling on CPC basis or cost per download or whatever. Because at the end, this is the contact that brand has with the consumer.
So you're talking about a combination of metrics,
Yes.
right? So a bit of this, a bit of that, depending on what the brand
Yes,
should have.
because we have different buying models, right? You can buy by download, by cost per click, and you can invent as many models as you wish, but still, like at the end, from the consumer perspective, I see the ad, and this contact matters. I also believe if you have one budget and at the end you're gonna split it between Facebook, YouTube, where your viewability is guaranteed, or to share this budget with different publisher when you don't know what to expect, you're gonna go only with those which gonna guarantee you viewability. So it's very competitive market, and you need to adjust to that.
Referring to desktop or mobile? On
Like
Facebook and YouTube.
both, because like
But viewability isn't guaranteed on Facebook.
so it's not more like we are telling you it's guaranteed, right? But at least they have methodology. They know they're gonna show you exactly how it's gonna look. They have the algorithm how to make the ad viewable. So this is the missing point, because like if you're on the website, you need to find the ad, right?
Yeah.
But you know that Facebook and YouTube, they're gonna push this ad on your, so
scrolling
you
down.
don't have to. Yes. So instead of pulling, you need to push the ad.
And obviously that's tied in with the relevant content that's within that page when you're pushing it, I'm assuming.
Pardon?
The relevant content you're referring to as well.
Yes, because at the end, like, you need to choose, okay, what is the ad, what is your target audience, what is the context,
Yeah.
right? So all those elements matters. And at the end, if I have publisher which develops standard, some kind of standard, right? And those who didn't, this is my decision and my responsibility that I'm taking. That's why the rest of the publisher needs to adopt, and very, very quickly.
But we still have the fact that who guarantees that they're actually doing that? Is there anyone who is actually monitoring this? I mean, a third party, because we do respect that Facebook is Facebook, Google is Google, and everybody else at the same level. But who is actually really monitoring that? Just to go back, I'll just mention quickly what they have discussed, and I would like to have you guys comment on a couple of points here. So we know that mobile has very high viewability compared to other mediums, which makes the problem a bit better than seeing it on different platforms. Does this guarantee that, are they guaranteeing you, publishers, that the least they can give you is 81%? Are you guys all getting this? I mean, today, 81% is viewable impressions.
DoubleClick, right, is a third party. Okay, even though it's
not certified for mobile in-app, which is
that's why I said in-app is completely different. In-app is another dimension to because everyone here says in-app is 100%. There's some people that actually, from the vendor side at least, there's a lot of people that say that in-app is 100%. We have our doubts, right? But at the same time, I'm saying web-based, right, which is also only 10% of the total, right? Web-based is you can track viewability through DoubleClick or MediaMind or anything else, and we pull reports in order to do that. But it's not all 80%, Ayman, in terms of viewability.
Of course, we're saying that there has the highest, which...
No, there are some places that are 20%, 30%, and we're pushing back on publishers. I'm not saying the networks. Certain publishers we buy direct with and telling them, you have a problem, 1, 2, 3, we have to stop spend until you push this up at least 50-60%. And at the same time, for next year, hopefully commercially, we should be tackling the issue in a different way. Maybe 70% plus commercial signed agreement. This will help a lot in the whole industry, because at the end of the day, you don't own the publishers, right? You buy from the publishers, and the publishers should be able to to optimize their website in order to get the viewable impressions there, because we already have the most personalized asset between our hands. That's why we have to push the publishers in order to do it well.
Viewable versus delivered is something else that we also had from the guys. Guidelines are still not that clear, and this is probably something else we can debate in the metrics and measurement. So we need someone to actually accredit those third parties and saying that, you know what, yes, DoubleClick is a player that can really measure viewability. Pushing more investments in advertising will push publishers to actually invest more in technologies to make things even better for you. So maybe optimizing more, making their ads on their websites more viewable, getting the latest technologies and so on and so forth. Defining viewability in particular, we don't agree to, because it depends really on what you need. But 1 second and 2 second works, because at the end of the day, somebody might see the ad for 1 second, but he doesn't want to look at it. It doesn't make sense for them, right? We all need to work together. And this is definitely something we should work on, because if we don't all agree on what we need, then we're going to have a bigger problem. Viewability is important, but it might not work everywhere, which is also true, because if we're talking about CTRs and you're happy with 0.3%, 0.7%, whatever it is, 0.7% means you still have around 99.3% who might not have seen your ad. So will you be okay with the CTR and drop viewability, or the other way around? This is something else we need to look at. And of course, auditing, which is the third party. So I would like you guys to comment on those. Anyone?
I think the topic is very controversial. That's I mean, on a single table of brands from different industries, we couldn't agree. So how about you look at it from a publisher and an agency perspective, and if you have all the agencies and all the publishers, so it's kind of a heated discussion.
Of course.
The only way to get all of this together is to first agree on on the basics, which is what is an impression, a viewable impression. Personally, I don't believe like a 2 seconds, 50% amount of pixels shown to a human being is actually an impression, right? Like that's when you tell someone, can you repeat what you said, because you didn't understand it. So how can this be an impression? And from that, we track back and see. It's all about how the advertiser, the brand is paying for it. So if I'm paying a cost per view, right, and then a publisher is telling me that you have 20 million views, right? A view is a 2 seconds. That's not a view for me. That's a view according to the purchase mechanism that I did. But that's a great thing. But it should be more than that. It should be more than 5-6 seconds. Now there are the big players in the market, which is like Facebook and Google. Google have their own active view technology to measure how much they have visibility, and they actually mentioned.
But they're measuring it themselves again.
They're measuring it for their GDN, excluding YouTube app. So their GDN, and they're serving the ads over GDN. So they say it's like around 91% viewability.
They say. Yeah.
Right. Now there is a thought that we have to go by and understand that these are like extremely professional. They're one of the market leaders, but that doesn't mean that I should, look in a disregard for the publishers in this region, right? When they say like it's 80%, 85%, I have to believe them, but I have to agree with them that your opinion about a view is a 5 seconds minimum, right? That to be counted as view. When we reach that consensus between the two sides of the world, locally, I think we have a good point to keep on the discussion.
So there's a big need for someone to come and actually manage this, to have a party where they can come and put us on the right track. So agree among everybody. Somebody from outside is going to come and tell you, you know what, I'm going to govern this. I'm going to say, but you know what, 4 seconds is the right thing. Not 2, not 5. We all agree to that, no?
There should be definitely a consensus. Whether it's an external party, whether the advertisers and the publishers and the agencies sit on a certain table and create an association to come up with these kind of benchmarks, yeah, it is needed. Because otherwise everyone has a different view on impression, and let's not reach the level where in-app or like mobile or like GDN, before reaching that side even, we have to agree on the basic, which is what is a viewable impression.
When you want to start talking about in-app, there is no one technology that measures viewability as I understand it. So there comes to us a certain point where I think we need to take a step back. Today, from a digital perspective, the investments in this region are under-indexed. I think this is the first challenge that we all have in this room, right? Not because we're not making more money or because they're not optimizing enough or because there's a lost opportunity, because that's where the consumer is. That's where consumer is spending 6-7 hours, right? So I think there needs to be some prerequisite fundamental KPIs on publishers or parties where you invest your money, which you're accountable for, to come and say, before we talk viewability and programmatic and, there needs to be a foundation of class A partners that we can work with. People who are fraud-free. I think this is a very important question that you need to ask before we ask about viewability. And then the infrastructure, which was a point that was made from here, is that this publisher who's taking investments from me has the infrastructure on mobile, a mobile-friendly website, and an app that's set up right to take this inventory. And then when global, which are the most advanced in terms of agree on a certain standard, that's going to come here anyway. And at most of the time when we started investing in YouTube and in Facebook in the past, we always were based on, here are the global benchmarks. That's the only benchmark that's available. Let's start with that and move forward. It's unfair to start penalizing yourself, ourselves, and everyone in this room to push back on investing more on digital, because there are still lots of variables that have a big question mark on them. And I think there's a big opportunity for us to set fundamental KPIs to say fraud-free, infrastructure that's right, and a good CTR, a good CPM, whatever the benchmarks are available for us to work with. And then obviously as the industry, I don't think anyone in this room is going to say, no, I'll give you 50% viewability, take it or leave it. I think we're all gearing towards 100% viewability if the technology that's available allows that. It's not a game of whether we want to stick at 80%. It's about if the technology is going to allow the 100%. And if it will, the clients, and we will.
So now that things are rolling, we probably need to have more investment so you guys can invest more to lean towards a higher percentage of viewability.
So should investment come in before this should happen, or vice versa? That's another issue that I think we have to look at. I know you have certain points, Andy.
Andy got excited.
So it's the same thing from our side as agencies. So should we get a head count before we actually win a business, or we win a business and then get a head count, then scramble to get a head count? So that's also plays a big role in terms of how much investment is going to be there. I know that probably you're going to say that we're investing a lot in other places, for example, TV or desktop or the likes, print, radio, whatever, and there is no viewability standard, right? But yeah, I know where you're. Trust me, I know how where the thinking is coming from. But at the same time, in all of the client sides, MMMs, for example, or even the data, how they're absorbing that data, what is happening is that digital is not at the core yet of the MMMs. It's still, in order to plug in this data properly, in order for this to move forward also. Another thing is, just a question, cost per viewability, might that start, which has already started, and this can also be a solution to certain places. I know this might hurt you guys in some places, maybe, because at the end of the day, if we want 100% viewability, we're going to buy 1 million impressions. You're going to have to serve 1.4 million in order for us to have the 1 million viewable impressions.
Then you probably need to pay enough for this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to pay enough for this.
Maybe.
We
were also debating here about maybe a premium on it. That should be, maybe not. We don't know yet what the right place is. Just one more thing about native that I don't think.
Hold your thought.
Yeah, no one touched on the native part. So native is it's a Facebook model also, right? So in native, when you're scrolling through native, at the end of the day, you're going to be pushed an ad. Just to Anna's point, it's going to be pushed an ad. Having more native in the market and more inventory for native will also solve a lot of problems that we face in terms of viewability, and it can take the Facebook model on an app or on a website or so forth.
Let's have.
Yeah, so I was just going to say on your second point there, I think we've all said around the table that as and when there's an approved, verified third party, then we will all more than likely have 100% viewability in app. So, and I think from that we would expect an adoption of a CPMV. Like I know that obviously I can only talk on behalf of Mobi, but we are working on our own internal technology for viewability, and that will eventually end up having a viewability model, because we're confident enough, as Zach was saying for Millennial, they're already doing it, that we have enough quality publishers within the network that have all of their ads, which will be 100% viewable, all in app. If I'm honest, like mobile web, as and when again a third-party vendor comes, the demand isn't there on our network. It's all in app. So my question would be, if we're offering 100% viewability on whether it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 seconds, will that actually increase the mobile share of budget? And that, for me, I mean,
Exactly,
we continue, as I believe tech companies continue to invest in technologies that justify budget spend, trying to make this share shift that's been going on ever since the internet was invented. And we continue to invest in this technology, and that would be my question. Like, it just seems that we are consistently knocking down barriers by investing in our own technologies, just to try and make really, really small increases of cross-platform budgets coming into mobile.
Just a second. I think Andy put it in a good way. I mean, it should be like a three-way relationship. But again, Jabran's point is the chicken and the egg. Like, who comes first, a budget or a result? But I think if I speak on behalf of the people from advertising, all that we care about is a success when it comes to the campaign that we carry on. So speaking from a personal experience, and I'm not going to name names, at a certain point we carried out a mobile display advertising with a video element in it across some networks, and then we were sold heaven. We were like, oh, X amount of thousands of views and whatever, great. But when we checked cross-backed on our own platform, which we carried out a different campaign, we discovered that the results were not that good at all, right? So if we found success over there, logically speaking, more budgets will flow in for the next campaign, and then one after that, and one after that. And in just a proof case, for example, Jabran, you mentioned native. We used native advertising, we piloted, and it created immense results, right? So, a year till now, we have increased spending for native by almost 80%, which actually ate from, budgets for just normal display. So yes, of course. Well, the thing is, when publishers have to sell me advertising spaces on their mobile optimized sites, let's not talk about in-apps. So what are the formats? You have to have it native, otherwise, because it's kind of a news feedy type of approach like Facebook. But other than that, the banners didn't work. So when native worked, actually we have increased the spend over there. And not only that, we discovered that native with certain publishers who were not delivering good results, you know what I'm talking about, they actually produce good results, right? So of course, if something works, speaking on behalf of everyone, yes, we'd be happy at the end of the day. We'd achieve our results, and we're gonna invest more.
I'm not in disagreement that if something doesn't work, works. But today I think there's a bigger opportunity that's on the table for everyone in this room. Consumers are spending a lot of amount of time on digital, and that's not represented in amount of force or impressions or efforts from marketing level for us to be where the consumers are. And if we are okay with, if we look at, what digital today puts on the table, it's the ability for us to measure whatever we're doing. So maybe it's a curse and a blessing of digital at the same time. But what's happening is, since I joined the industry in 2005, first there was measuring impressions first, and then it came about, now there's social, and then came video, and then came programmatic, and now there's viewability. And believe me, the next time we sit, there's going to be another metric that we're going to be debating, another metric that we're going to be debating, and guess what? Our share of digital investments are still going to be at the 10% mark. And it's whether we, we benefit from that or not, or whatever it is. I think there's a key point for the whole room to identify what are the make or break KPIs that you want to look at. Am I going to be flexible with viewability? Because even where I put 80% of my budget on television, I can't guarantee a view, and work on measuring other KPIs that are gonna tag into our ROI? Or am I gonna keep penalizing digital because I can measure it, and there are so many KPIs that I can't understand what the dashboard should look like, and stray away from it where consumers are spending more and more time. It's a very important thought to keep in mind beyond just trying to look at every single challenge that's coming to us. And like Andy was saying, knock barriers. So I don't think it's a chicken and egg. I think it's a fundamental issue of identifying the gap between where the landscape is or where the money is. And then discuss, how are we going to bridge that gap, and then look into the KPIs that are against our favors and knock them down. And I think everyone in this room is happy to put any solution on the table if it's doable, because your money you're accountable for it, and we are accountable for it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I think the more we talk a lot about metrics in digital, and we compare digital metrics to offline metrics and try and find a rationale between them. And from a publisher side and from our side, we're putting more and more tech in to try and understand numbers, show viewability. And I can understand the frustration of, is any of this going to have impact on budget at the end of the day? And I don't think it will until we start talking about, as you were saying, the actual business KPIs. So actually even viewability, I think, is kind of a secondary metric. And I'd be really interested in hearing, you said your mobile campaign didn't perform very well when you looked at your own when you looked at your own data. What numbers were you looking at to judge that? And I think as a room, the sooner we all start talking together about ultimately the business results, we'll all across whatever the medium, then investment will follow in a much more sensible pace.
So what happened is we ran a video content that has been repurposed, and especially for mobile first audience. So you need to capture the audience in the first 3 seconds, otherwise you're gonna switch off. Because we're competing against everything when people is on mobile. We're competing against the push notification, the Facebook notification, the WhatsApp, the email, the game. So we have to catch this person. And what happened is that network came back and said, oh, we achieved lots of views. Let's say, for the sake of example, 100,000 views. Okay, great. And then what happened is, after some time, we ran the same campaign, but we didn't take this content and we push it on the websites. No, we took this content on our own platform that we created, the .com proposition that is super mobile friendly. We invested a lot in it, and then we brought in traffic to this website so that people can actually consume this content on our own media. And what we discovered is, it was like baffling that a lot of people didn't actually proceed to see the half of the video. And then we did more testing. We actually invested a lot of money to see what's not clicking. We discovered that the content by itself didn't click with the target audience on a geographical segmentation. And then we took these results back, and we sat down with the network, with the agency, and we said, can you please share more information about how did you count a view? It's not about we are ready to invest, brands are ready to invest to reach people, engage with them. But the problem is, the definition. A network defines a viewable impression as 2 seconds, and it sold me everything. It was great, but when we realized we pressured a lot to get log files and all of these stuff from the video player, we discovered that true, actually people were just watching like 4 or 5 seconds and slipping and going out, and I was charged on a 2 seconds basis. So see, that's the disparity. We're not shy from putting budgets, personally speaking. But we want just clarity out of what is a viewable impression. That's it. It's not death by analytics or death by metrics, because they're all like mumbo jumbo now, and just people throwing them just to make themselves look smart. But it's just that definition. What is it? I'm ready to pay for it.
I want to comment 2 elements. First of all, regarding mobile budget, because I think also whenever we are talking about the share and how we are calculating it, actually it's more, because from our perspective, whenever we are planning the campaign, we have mobile device agnostic platforms, so we are spending on mobile. We have applications, so this is a part of that. We have social media, we have YouTube, so all those elements are mobile, right? So we don't see a split when we should plan, impressions on apps separately than impressions on the website. From our perspective, it's the same because it's just a device, right? But still, like we need to have a right contact with our consumer. If we're gonna split just, okay, those are apps and this is the rest, it's not gonna work. Because from our side, it's the same inventory. And using programmatic, linking back the whole inventory, we can plan the most efficient way to reach our customers. That's why I think whenever we're gonna debate mobile spend, mobile budget, that it's different because we need to identify which elements we are talking about. So this is first point. The second point, it's about metrics, because like we cannot just sit and still discuss engagement rate, CTR, how long the video was sought, right? Like from our side, we are working and we developed the methodology to actually assess for each platform and each format what was the lift in awareness. And this is the objective of the campaign, the awareness, right? So all the elements are linking back to the main campaign objective. And I also believe it's from the client. It's different approach we can have for different clients, different campaigns. If we are e-commerce platform only, then for us performance is the most important element, right? If we are different campaign or different clients, maybe awareness, long-term awareness, it's more important. And this we should focus on, because with digital, I believe we are stucking to the point when we are discussing elements, right? Like how long it should be or how to increase CTRs. But at the end, it's not the objective of having campaign. It's something on top of that. And this should be the main objective. And this is how we need to create the campaigns and lead the industry.
What I notice is that there's a bit of a confusion between viewability and view-through rates. So we can't consider viewability as view-through rates on video, because viewability is one thing and it works on video, it works on standard banners and on different platforms. So I wouldn't judge view-through rates based on viewability. If I look at Shahid, for example, I have astonishing view-through rates. So I'm not judging based on viewability of the first 2 seconds. Okay, so viewability, regardless of the consumer, if they watch the video or not, viewability is about the impression. If I get to see the impression or 50% of the impression itself for 1 or 2 seconds, regardless which format, this is viewability. Whether I decide to watch 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or 1 minute of this video is a different story. This is where creative comes in and different aspects of this video. So I just want to clarify that.
No, I agree. I'll start with Anna's point on we don't care what to target people and where to target people. I want to reach my audience, and if I want to reach my audience, if my audience is playing a game or my audience is watching a video on YouTube, that's what I care about. So that's one subject, just to split the mobile in-app thing versus non-in-app stuff. To build on the viewability thing, I think that's an agency game, and that's why the agency is there to optimize. If Platform X is considering a view as 3 seconds versus another who's considering a view as a full view with 30 seconds, this is the job of the agency. This is where you optimize. Maybe the view through rate on the 3 seconder ends up to be better than the other platform. That's a full optimization game. But I echo and I second Rami on what he said, that we need to have a global standards to start from somewhere, and then whether this platform works for me as a brand, works for me from a content perspective, I mean the creative assets that I have, that's another subject. We need to start from somewhere, and that somewhere should be the levels, setting the levels of what should be the viewability on a regular banner, on a video, and then when it comes, if that works for my brand or works for my product or not, that's an optimization game, and that would be subjective from brand to another. And also, it's not only subjective per brand, it's subjective by initiative. If I care about awareness or something, if I want to drive equity, that's another thing that I care about for viewability. So I don't think it's an easy thing to generalize all this stuff. So that's just my point of view.
I would like to comment on Anna's point. You're saying that you look at the bigger picture of the campaign and the result, but actually what I'm facing with every day, I'm a premium marketplace when it comes to programmatic. I deal with publishers versus agencies. I am liable for performance. And what agencies on daily basis say, we need CTR. So you're saying that you don't care about CTR, but CTR, viewability are key performance metrics that you do analyze on day-to-day when you want to analyze performance. And so your priority, even if you say that you don't analyze CTR, but you actually do, and campaigns are actually paused and stopped, budgets are limited because of that metric. I don't know if it's from the brands or the client's side that is pushing you to analyze CTR, but there is a much more analysis that you should make to analyze if your campaign is performing or not. So viewability is a point, CTR is another point, I agree. But today, it's not only about CTR, and so I would want to ask you, how would you tackle that matter with us as suppliers, getting you the premium publishers onto handling your campaigns? How would you want to analyze those performance? If it's CTR that you're saying you don't care of, but actually you do.
So just to clarify, because we have like basic metrics that are available, right? So you can measure based on CTR, cost per click, stuff like that. And also I believe it depends also from the agency and from the client, because maybe for some clients this is enough. If you have e-commerce platform and you only care about the online sales, maybe this is enough, right? But from our perspective, we developed the methodology to assess all those elements. So instead of using one metric that's gonna tell you, okay, people clicked on the ad, we developed the methodology that's gonna track the all behavioral data, what the internet user did, and what is more important, what is the awareness level, what is the purchase intent level, and we can track this using technology which is available. So of course, majority of the agencies and the clients still gonna care about CTRs, but if we're gonna look on the future, what to expect from the industry, we're gonna use more and more advanced metrics to assess the success. And this is the main point I want to make, because if we are talking only what's gonna happen in 6 months, then fine, we can stick to CTR. But if we want to create the future, we need to shift toward more and more advanced metrics.
I don't disagree with anything that was said, but if the starting point was how are we going to increase the spend and all of the money is on TV, I feel like today there's so much debate across publishers and different agencies and between different digital companies, to the extent that I think this is one of the reasons that the spend is on TV. Because if you double click a media plan on TV today for a company like Procter, it's insane what you find in there. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world to be spending money on NBC, but does it make sense that there's hundreds of thousands of dollars being spent on Zia Flam, on Fatafit, on TV stations that maybe have 10% of the reach of any of your digital companies? Not necessarily. Now, how are these people making money? Is it because Fatafit has its own metrics and the greatest sales pitch in the world? No, it's because they have a very unified metric, I think, right? So as an industry, yeah, they have the most primitive, basic, nonsensical metrics, but they're unified. And that's the biggest advantage, I think, for TV. And that's the real reason why all the money is spent on TV today, because it's simple, it's basic, you can sell it to the masses, you can sell it to SMBs. Don't forget the industry is not just P&G and Lever, right? So you have around 6 million SMBs that are active in media. There's $1.2 billion spent on TV by SMBs, half of which makes no sense because TV is a pan-Arab platform and SMBs operate on a local basis. So I think the ultimate takeout for me is all of what was said makes sense. The discussions on viewability, CTR, not CTR, all of that. But we're an industry who complicate our lives. I mean, I said it before on how we define advertising and content and all of that. There's so many metrics and there's really very little union among how we define things. And TV is, 80% of spend on TV, if not more, and it's super basic, super simple to sell and to understand and to operate. And like the simplest example, which we mentioned before, is it costs like a view on Facebook is not even the same thing as a view on YouTube. You pay here after 3 seconds, you pay there after full view. So it's and that these are the duopoly. So when you double click and start going into more details and more publishers, things get even more out of control. That if you're a media manager and you have X% of your time to decide where this budget is gonna go, it's gonna end up going to the simplest choices. As dumb and naive as that sounds, I think that's reality. So that was my only point.
I mean, I'm with Arif on most of the things he said, but I want to meet the guys who are not investing in digital. Like, I mean, I don't understand why this has been brought up a lot, right? But the share of digital spend from where I come from and where I am today, we've increased drastically and we continue to increase. So there's no fear of whether you'll get the share of the pie, because it's a natural evolution and we're going there. The question is, are you part of that pie or not? I think that's a different question. Is the money being distilled down to you or your suppliers, to different, or are we going to the duopolies of the world, like Arif calls them, the Facebooks and the YouTube, and sticking to them? I mean, are we getting the value from them? And that's where we are today, I think. Because the fact that their digital pie is not, I completely disagree, because the 10% number is true for sure for an industry-wide. What we look at, when you look at specific FMCGs, the big ones at least that make up, the Proctors, the Levers, that probably make up like 15-20% of the market. I mean, they're aggressively spending, and if you look at their percentages versus year ago, I very, very much doubt you're going to find a decline. So that is not the debate. The debate is not that whether we're investing enough. The debate is whether we're investing with, with the right partners or not. Because you can guarantee something, that Facebook guys and YouTube guys are very, very happy today, or Google guys, from us, because we've drastically increased spend. Now, the quality that we receive from them, the data that we receive from them, the offerings and the products they have, also, something we should discuss, right? I mean, like Arif is saying, there's no union of the data that you guys present back to us, but there is some sort of union with the data that they, even being completely different platforms, present. We could somehow put that together on an Excel sheet and make sense of it. I know the guy from Unilever was debating whether it's 11 second or 20 second, but the view is a view. You're getting that product there. Native video, Facebook came with that, So I think that's where we're at.
So why do we go on Facebook? They have their established Facebook pages, for example, where they can actually keep the people in the environment that they want to keep. Video is a different story. It's because it's telling a story, right? Be it on their mobile or on their desktop. But when you don't have assets in terms of proper, not responsive websites only, like proper mobile websites, that's going to be a hurdle for you guys. And it's a hurdle for us also, because we're scrambling to see how we're going to actually push people to have these assets, right? And push our clients to have these assets. And even till now, a lot of our clients don't have proper mobile assets, and you guys know that.
So guys, I'm gonna have to wrap up this. We can carry it to lunch with us. One last thing I'm gonna ask from you is that this is our first session for Mobile Talks, and we'd like to do many other sessions, but we cannot make it without your feedback. So I really appreciate to drop us a small line of what you think should the next session look like. Where did we go right? Where did we go wrong? And what can we do to enhance this for the next time? Thank you very much for attending. Lunch is ready, like an hour ago. And so please enjoy it. Thank you for coming.